What's up guys? So I might be a bit out of breath making this video because I've just finished doing my pull-ups. So I'm using that bar there and I'm up to 9 pull-ups now, doing every day, doing proper full range dead hang pull-ups, and it's feeling easier than when I started doing 5 with the shorter range of motion. So that's going really well, and I think I've put on a bit of mass on the upper body already. So that's going fantastically, but that is not what we're here to talk about today. What we're here to talk about today is the McGregor versus Mayweather fight, and obviously spoiler warnings should kind of go without saying really, but just in case, just in case you haven't watched the fight yet, stop watching this now and come back to it after you've watched the fight. So yeah, I think it was fantastic. It was a lot more entertaining than I thought it was going to be, and it's a win-win for everybody involved. So we've got Mayweather. He's got his unbroken record, 50-0. Now there's a lot of things going on in his personal life which I disapprove of. There's things about his personality I don't particularly like, but as an athlete, I have a lot of respect for him, and I'm really happy that he's managed to retire on such a high note. Now, on McGregor's side, I mean, let's face it, most people weren't expecting him to fucking win. Even the people who were rooting for him. I was rooting for him because he's an underdog, but I wasn't expecting him to fucking win. Let's be real here. So he did a lot better than most people expected. He put on an adequate performance. Compared with most boxers, he did as well as you could possibly expect of any human being on the planet who's never stepped into a boxing ring professionally before. So well done, Conor. You did absolutely fantastic, and I'm sure nobody whose opinion is worth a damn thinks anything bad about your performance whatsoever. So yeah, I think it's done a great thing for promoting both sports. I mean, the fans are a different matter, lots of animosity on both sides, but the people are just being complete cunts about it. I'm sure most of them have never fucking stepped in any kind of competitive arena before. I don't really give a shit what they have to say, quite frankly. But yeah, when I first heard talk about the fight, I really thought that, Conor was just going to get his ass kicked. He's not a professional boxer, and him going up against a fucking champion, even if they are, getting to retirement age, Conor, I thought he wouldn't stand a fucking chance. But once it was actually officially announced, I started thinking about it more, and I realised it may actually be pretty damn close. So Floyd, he has far more striking experience, obviously, but just as importantly, maybe even more so, he has a hell of infinitely more experience under the boxing-specific rule sets. What is and isn't allowed in fighting, the length of the rounds, just simply being in that arena and all of that kind of stuff really makes a lot more difference than you'd initially think. Conor, on the other hand, he had the advantage in practically every other way. So he's stronger, he's faster, he's younger, he doesn't have any injuries, he's got more reach. So lots and lots of advantages all around there, and I was really looking forward to seeing how these advantages and disadvantages actually went and played out in the ring. And it really reminded me of the early days of UFC when nobody really knew what was going to happen. You'd have a pretty good idea of who was going to win a lot of the time, but you couldn't really make predictions much more accurate than that. So yeah, really entertaining. I just love watching fights, quite frankly, and it's just entertainment for me. But I did see quite a few snobs online talking about how, especially from the boxing community, who thought that a spectacle like that is beneath them, Conor isn't even going to be remotely a challenge. He's going to be knocked out halfway through the first round, and it's stupid to even watch the thing. But Conor, I think, proved that he was a really worthy competitor. So personally, as you might have guessed, I was rooting for Conor. Obviously, he's the underdog in the situation, and I wanted to see a good fight. And also, I like his personality. He's a funny motherfucker. So sure, he always trash talks before a fight. And I do understand, I do get it that lots of people fucking hate that about him. I really do understand that. But after the fights, he always shows respect whether or not he wins or loses, and immediately starts analysing what he could do better, and I really do respect that. So trash talking, when it comes to the combat sports, which places a big emphasis on entertainment, such as boxing and MMA, yeah, I think trash talking just comes with the territory. It's part of the mental game, it sells more tickets, makes things more interesting, and I think it's just a part of the game. Don't take it too fucking seriously, and I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with that. So personally, yeah, I was expecting Conor to lose somewhere between 6 and 8 rounds, which would still be absolutely phenomenal for any human being going against a fucking champion when they've never stepped in a boxing ring professionally before. So to make it to the 10th round, I thought was absolutely fantastic. Mayweather, now, personally, I've never really liked listening to his interviews. I haven't really thought that he's had much very insightful to say. I've found him to be a little bit boring. But after the fight, I found him to be pretty cool in his interviews. I actually wanted to hear what he had to say. And it was nice to hear him talking about some of his strategies and planning and stuff like that, because unless I missed something, I think he did keep that quite quiet beforehand. And I think there is quite a lot going on in his head now, a lot more than I thought there was beforehand. So, yeah, that was really cool, and I've gained a lot of respect for him as well. So, as for the fighting itself, I think clearly Mayweather was trying to wear Conor down at the beginning. He certainly said so in the interviews after the fight. Now, it is possible that he was just saying that after to make it sound like he had more of a plan than he actually did, and to make it sound like he was in control the whole time. But yeah, I do think that's what Mayweather was trying to do in the early rounds. And to some extent it did work. Clearly Conor did get tired eventually, but I don't think it worked quite as well as he was planning. Mayweather soaked up far more hits than I think he was planning on. He received some really fucking nasty ones, good fucking uppercuts, body shots, you name it. McGregor did deliver an awful lot of hits. Now, I think Conor was making really, really good use of his reach, and Mayweather just needed to be a little bit sharper on closing in and flying out and that kind of stuff. But that is much, much easier said than done when you're fighting against someone who's nearly young enough to be a fucking son. Now, McGregor, so I don't know if you could call it a mistake or not, but he did waste an awful lot of energy, which ultimately led to his downfall. Yeah, it ended up with him fatiguing and ultimately losing the fight. But you know what? I don't really think there's anything. I don't think there's anything McGregor could have done any differently, really. Outworking his opponent and trying to finish him as quickly as possible does seem to be the only way where McGregor could have possibly won. If he tried to play the defensive game and pace himself and last the full 12 rounds, he would have been playing far too much into Mayweather's territory, and I really think he would have stood absolutely zero chance if he tried to fight that way as well. McGregor, he got a few bad habits from MMA in my opinion. So yeah, firstly there was the hammer fists, which I think he could have been called out on. He could have been penalised or disqualified for that potentially. Now, I don't know whether or not McGregor was just trying to fucking get away with it and land some more hits, or whether or not it was simply a reflex action which he learned. I'm not sure. And I think it would be a hard decision if I was the referee in that situation. Also, I don't really think McGregor knew what to do from the clinch. Now, obviously, he knows what to do when he's in the clinch from an MMA perspective, but in the boxing ring, he couldn't have just slammed Mayweather's face into the ground. So I think he kind of got to clinching and then realised, I don't know what I'm fucking doing, So yeah, that looked a little bit awkward to me. But hey, I wouldn't know what to do from a boxing perspective either. This is coming from somebody who isn't, that experienced with boxing. I'm more of a grappler, so I certainly wouldn't have been any better either by any stretch of the imagination. And Mayweather, he did a fantastic job on capitalising on it when McGregor finally did start to fatigue, and it was really cool to see that more aggressive side of him. I know lots of people like to call Mayweather's fighting boring. I disagree with that, but I think that you'd have a really hard time finding people who would call Mayweather's fighting boring in this one. I think he did a fantastic job of making this fight exciting and ending his career with a bang. And finally, the stoppage did seem a little bit early to me. Now, I'm not saying I'd have done a better job as a referee. It's a really fucking tough decision to make, and it is better to stop a fight early than stop it late. So, but yeah, it was a little bit early for my liking. I'd have liked it to have gone on at least until McGregor hit the fucking floor. And McGregor agrees with that as well. So I think that by that point, the reason I didn't have too much of an issue with the fight being stopped that early is that, yeah, if it did carry on, I do think that McGregor was absolutely fucked by that point anyway. So against an easier opponent, sure, McGregor, he could have kept his distance, he could have tried to conserve some energy and maybe time wasted a bit to get to the next round, and maybe he'd have recovered enough to win by that point. But against a fucking champion, against somebody with the experience Mayweather has, that wasn't going to fucking happen. Mayweather was going to fucking capitalise it. He was going to bloody end it very shortly after that point anyway. So I don't think it made much difference really at all. I think that was just entering the bloody kill phase at that point. So it doesn't bother me too much that the fight was stopped at that point. Now, McGregor, in his interviews after, obviously thinks a bit differently. He thinks that he did have a chance of coming back from it. Now, yeah, I disagree, but I do understand his mentality. I do think that is the mentality a fighter should have. You should kind of think that, hey, I can come back from this, because if you don't think that way, if you don't have that fucking confidence, then absolutely, there is zero chance you could come back from it. If you've got that confidence, though, then there is always a chance you can come back from it. So I understand that perspective, and also he, by that point, hadn't watched the fight back, and I know what it's like being in that situation. I've had fights myself where the fight's been stopped, and I thought, fucking hell, I wish that could have gone on another 10 seconds. I was just about to pull off this fucking awesome move, but watching it back, you realise, nah. He fucking had me. It was fucking done. It was over at that point. And yeah, those are my thoughts. Thanks for watching. Comment below, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.